Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. Glad to hear on this Friday morning, December the 11th. We're getting close to Christmas, about 2 weeks away from today. So I know everybody's excited as I am, and all the kids running around, and it's just going to be a great Christmas season. Hopefully, we'll get all squared away, spend some family, good quality family time after the presents are open. Now, let's take a look at our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center on the corner of Baldwin Road and Highway 77. Looking at the high today of 75 and a low of 56. Beautiful day. Water temperature 67 degrees. Let's take a look at our river readings brought to us by Watson Landing Marina and Dry Storage over there 2 minutes east of Harrison Avenue. We're looking at Apalachicola Bluffs now. First time it's been below 6 foot. We're reading a 5.8 this morning. Looking really good for the weekend. It's Choctahatchee at Caryville. It's right at 6 foot. Both rivers are just got the same reading, both of them in good shape, and it's just going to be a great winter, pre-winter. We're about 1 week away from official winter, but pre-winter fishing, late fall fishing in freshwater. Tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery. Again, all nature is helping us out. We have great tides this weekend. Today, we got a tide. We got a 2.2 movement. We have low tide at 7:12 this morning and a high tide at 9:15 tonight. It's looking really good as far as the tide chart. Now, also the marine forecast is coming out of south a little bit at about 5 to 10. We couldn't ask for any better weather this time of year. It's just excellent weather for fishing and for hunting, or just getting out in the outdoors and hiking and whatever you want to do. Just really, it's going to be. I think I may go cut some firewood tomorrow morning. It's just I got a feeling to do that. I need some anyway. Let's go ahead and do our fishing game forecast for this section here. Brought to us by Mark Coward of Counts Real Estate. We only have one time right smack dab in the middle of the day, 11:53 to 1:53. You can round that off and say 12 to 2, but that's going to be the excellent time to get outdoors, and a lot of stuff moving around. A lot of people are going to be, hunt early and then rest and all, and fish early. But don't forget that middle of the day now. It's going to be good. All right, let's take our break and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us this morning. Getting ready to start off a great weekend in the outdoors. Let's take a look at some pictures now. What's going on in the local outdoors? And this is Mark Grant. Now, this is up in Alabama, but this is a big bass, and I want to show you what he caught on. That's a 9-inch glide bait. Big bait, big fish. You can imagine he's up behind the ball field up there. Mark is a good fisherman though. Here locally, Austin Givens. Austin graduated last year. Loves it. Just got into scuba diving last year. In fact, we talked about it in class. He got excited about it and is doing it right offshore now. You can see where the flounder are. These are some really nice flounder. Good job, Austin. He's not in a very big boat. If you look at that boat, so he didn't go. You can see he's right offshore there. Austin Givens. All right, a little saying I like this going. Faith is not about everything turning out okay. Faith is about being okay no matter how things turn out. That's some food for thought for today. How about this one? My wife said, go buy a Christmas tree and a tree stand. And now she looks all mad for some reason. A tree stand, that's what she said. All right, check out this doormat. Talking about flounder. This time of the year, we've had a late movement on them. There's Robbie Livingston, and I like that he got a series of pictures here and put it on a scale, 4 pounds, 10.9 ounces. That qualifies as a doormat. Anytime you get over 4 pounds. Good job there, Robbie. I like this story here. This is Julie Buttram Gabby. Julie's brother and I were best friends growing up there in Quincy, and Julie lives down in Wakulla, married and moved down to Wakulla, and she watches the show sometimes on YouTube. She got this big buck. Now, she told a story about it. She actually had to move a tree stand. She knew the big buck. She and her husband hunting the area. She knew the big buck was in the area, but he just wouldn't come around the tree stand. So what did she do? Just simple thing, move the tree stand. That was a nice buck over there in Wakulla County. All right. Good story here. This is Greg Taylor. This is 8 point. He shot it with a muzzle loader, and what's good about this? This is a muzzle loader he bought 30 years ago from Ronnie Groom down at C&G. That's one of some of the original muzzle loaders that came out, and Greg still has his. And I want you to look at the placement of that shot. You want to get that one shot there with that muzzle loader. Good shot, Greg Taylor. Greg's co-founder of Counts Real Estate, and Greg, a good viewer, gives us a lot of feedback on the show, and that's something to be proud of right there. 30-year-old muzzle loader. Real quick, there's a picture of me. I made the top 5 finalists, and they came by to observe me. The committee came by, and guess what I was doing? I mean, I knew they were coming, but I was actually teaching knot tying. So I just wanted to show what we were doing, and out of all the things, I know some of these other teachers are probably teaching some things more complicated than what I was doing, but we had a good time doing it in a good class. How I feel when you go fishing without me. Nothing needs to be said about that. Okay, this has an email. I'm gonna read the email and go with this. Okay, you got 2 pictures here. Got this buck here, okay, and got this one in the back of the truck. That's 2 different bucks, 2 different hunters. Okay, let me read. This is follow up on the duck hunting and the deer hunting out at Tyndall with the feedback I've been getting from it. This is a follow up. Last weekend, duck season was closed, and here's the results. It was that big buck. He said, "Hey Winston, thanks for reading my email. Here are the results of a closed duck weekend between my buddy and I. Mine ran about 100 yards before we bedded. I tracked him and on the other side of the Palmetto, I heard him. I sat down and waited, but however, he must have winded me and took off on the second run, went about 400 yards. My buddy helped me track him. We found him in the marsh right where the duck hunters frequent. While looking around the small peninsula after we lost the blood track, I jumped another buck and 4 does that were bedded, which they almost ran over my buddy. He did not have his muzzle loader as he was not checked in to hunt that particular block. Both of these deer were taken less than 500 yards from the edges of the marshes. I think that when the duckers move in, the deer quietly slip out of the area and into the thickets before shooting light in lieu of being relaxed and going for a morning feed. Thanks again for reading my letter. All I want is for the duckers to be considerate, cognizant of the fact that deer hunters are out there too. Again, deer hunters can only hunt Friday through Sunday, and Monday through Thursday, the duck hunters can do 7 days a week. So I hadn't really realized they could do that, especially maybe across the bay on weekends, especially when the rut approaches in January. And it's so cold and that north wind blowing. Layered Bayou and the Eastern Shipbuilding are the calm side and loaded with ducks also. All right, interesting feedback there. There is a nice buck there, and that's really. So send me emails. Remember I said I lost some emails. If some of y'all sent me some emails recently, they jumped back to 2012. But I've tried to find them. I put some emails. I try to answer them right away because then if I don't, but sometimes I'm just tied up and can't. If I don't, I put them in what I call pending, and those pending ones I just haven't got to yet, and that's what somehow they just bounced out of there. All right, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. I left off one picture. He's going to be really mad at me, so I'm going to show it. It's Carl Andrews, one of my first running backs I ever coached back in the Rutherford days a long time ago. Carl still watches the show on a religious basis. I appreciate it. Carl is out in Texas, and he gets this big, I can't pronounce it. It's A-O-U-D-A-D, Aoudad. It's just a big old sheep, and look at those horns on it. And that is a good-looking trophy there, Carl. I appreciate you sending me a picture, and we want to get it. Let everybody see that. He's going to be watching this morning. He'd been mad. I had it up here, and so I wanted to. All right, next I want to. This is interesting. One of the viewers that we're talking about the history of the book, and all, one of the viewers sent me an article, and I really enjoyed reading it about some of her relatives. And Lisa was the name. Her granddad had Robert Seafood there on Everett Avenue. She sent me an old newspaper article, and I was reading it, and what was fascinating about it was how the transportation back in the day, and I just wanted to read it because I wanted to show it to my class. If I can get to it now, let's see. I may not get to it, Jeff. Okay, Miss Roberts. It goes. This is an old article here, and the lady was like 90 years old, and her sister was having a birthday party, but her sister was 100 years old, couldn't come to the birthday party, not because she was 100 years old, but because she had to watch her children who was sick. Okay, so here's how they traveled. Okay, they grew up over there in the late 1800s at Camp Walton, which was Fort Walton Beach, and you can imagine the different forms of transportation she had. Okay, so I just want to read it to you, and these first-hand reports it gives us, and I enjoy reading these to the kids too. Okay, and here's she came to Bay County in 1911. Okay, this is Mrs. Roberts came to Bay County in 1911 across the sandy roads of the Panhandle in a cart pulled by 2 oxen. At that time, the trip took 7 days and 6 nights. Mrs. Roberts recalled these stories. She tells how the nights were spent camped in the woods along the way, and they would just go as long as they could, stop and just spend the night. She reports that her travels through the area in the past 90 years have been made by oxen and cart, horse and buggy, mule and wagon, sailing vessels, and fishing boats aboard the steamship Tarpon, and by train up until the present day automobile traveling. She was actually traveling before we had automobiles, and it was just fascinating that they were able to do that. And I want to read that to the students and all. And I told them the other day, I had this brainstorm. We were talking about drones, and I predicted, if you remember 5 or 6 years ago when drones first came out, how popular they were going to be. Well, it's one of the hottest selling presents for Christmas this year across the country. And in fact, we know that because they've been hard to find. And what I was trying to do, if you look in the future now, just a little bit over 100 years ago, we had the first automobile here, 1913. This is before this lady was here. And what happened, what happened, you can see the advent of the automobile and different things that went on. So I'm trying to find something here. I don't think I can find it. But anyway, I told my kids, with drones, they're going to see in their lifetime, especially in their kids' lifetime, I think you're going to start seeing drones, humans riding drones. And I know it sounds crazy now, but you look at the sizes of them. They start out this size, and they already have them at UPS and Amazon.com. They deliver packages with them. Fishermen and all, they're using them to scout different areas. Of course, you know what the military can do with the drones and all. And it's just, to me, only a matter of time. It makes logical sense. They're going to have people actually flying zones, and they're going to have a limited area to start with. They're going to get bigger and bigger. And I told my students, I said, I bet your grandchildren will start seeing the decline of the American automobile. And it's just my thinking in the future. And we certainly want to be around to see that, but you see where things are headed. So it's fascinating to be able to watch that. And they couldn't believe it themselves. But I said, well, what are they going to do? They're going to have a lower level for slower drones. That'll be the blue level. And then have the next level up here be the green zone, a little bit faster speed. And then on the top level, that'll be the red zone where you just fly back and forth. And it won't be in stop signs. And they'll actually have radar on them where they can actually hit, they'll see each other before they hit. I mean, they're doing that now on automobiles, so where you can have alarms going off with self-driving cars. And who would have thought about things like that 10 years ago? So that's the future. How it affects outdoorsmen is simple. You can imagine going on a hunting trip and not driving your truck, just fly right into the middle of Tate's Hell and sit down. Can you imagine that? Well, we're not going to be able to do it. You're going to see those kind of things. Anyway, I sometimes with my students, I get off talking on tangents like that, and it's just fascinating. And they'll get a lot out of it. Let's go ahead and get it lined up for our draw. And I had a couple more things to go over with you. One of the things, I just have time to get into it now because we want to do our fishing forecast. So let's go ahead and draw for our fishing winners today from Tarpon Dock Seafood. Now, one thing about Christmas time is just seafood. I don't know. It just tastes better around in December. I'll tell you what I've been eating a lot of it lately. Has been fish tacos at all kinds of different places, and I have yet to find a bad fish taco. I've eaten at 3 or 4 different restaurants and ordering fish tacos, and I'm trying to find. They're all good. So anyway, go down to Tarpon Dock Seafood. It's just some shrimp. Shrimp are really good. Oysters at Christmas time. They don't get any better. All right, the winner of the $20 gift certificate is going to be Jan Vest. Jan Vest. First time he won this year. All right, Jan, that's $20. Now the big red snapper, and you can do all kinds of things with that red snapper. Now remember, we're going to everybody's going to re-enter in January. We're going to talk about that next week or two. I'm going to just dump all these out, the ones we have left. We've had a lot of winners over here. The ones we have left, I'm going to go ahead and dump out and start over in January. So everybody re-register each year. All right, Tanis Khalil at Phillips Inlet wins the Big Red Snapper. So let me write that down. The Big Red Snapper go to Tanis Khalil. All right, that's the 2 winners here. Now we're going to take a quick break. We're going to set up our famous Friday fishing forecast. Welcome to the famous Friday fishing forecast brought to us by Tarpon Dock Seafood, and it's fascinating. Got different kind of reports. Even no matter what time of the year it is, people are still talking about fishing. 52 weeks a year, 365 days a year in the Florida Panhandle. And just look back on the map. I was just sort of gazing at it. What a beautiful place we have. So let's get on into it. The first report. I like to talk about freshwater first. The bass fishing has been good. Now, rather than on the small side, of course, the picture you saw earlier was a big bass, but that was in some of these special ponds and all. But bass fishing, I've talked to a couple different bass fishermen. They're catching bass, but they're a little on the small size, and they sort of on the tournament trail now. They've just slowed down. They don't have many tournaments in December. Of course, we want nobody to spend time with family and holidays and all. They just don't do a lot of bass fishing. In January, they'll be kicking off again on some winter bass fishing. So it's good in all kinds of different places. The Pier report, lots of bonita. They like to call them little tuna, but lots of bonita, some flounder, some whiting, and some redfish. Now, a lot of times we overlook these bonita. They are a lot of bonita out there, and they're a lot of fun to catch. Of course, they're not edible. They're excellent shark bait. There's a bloody kind of fish in the tuna family, but don't be scared to go out there and target bonita. I know some of the guides now are using them as a sport fish, and I don't blame them. I would too, because I mean a lot of fish are being released now anyway, so it can make a guide trip really worthwhile to get folks if they're coming down from Tennessee or Georgia or Alabama and want to just catch some fish. Tuna, those little bonita are a lot of fun to catch. So anyway, they're all catching some flounder out there, and it's been good on that. And whiting has been okay, and I didn't get any pompano report this week. Carabel, we'll talk to them, remember, on the phone earlier part of the week. The two things, the trout and redfish down there. The trout has not moved up into the creek. And that's another thing now. The trout are staging, and Captain Roy used to talk about this, they call it staging, and he had made a good point. They're getting out there in the mouth of the creek, they're sort of staging up in it, getting ready to go in the creeks, but they're not up in the creeks yet. So don't be looking for them up there. Sandy Creek, the same kind of situation there. But anyway, Carabel over there, we have some really good reports of some good redfish, and the trout have been steady, is what they're saying. And the Miradine has been hot down there. Catching them on the Miradine lure. All right, Apalachicola, St. Joe, the big news there is, of course, the Apalachicola, the sheephead, looking good. Surf fishing at St. George Island has produced some whiting. And they didn't have I didn't hear a lot of pompano catches at St. George Island. I'm not saying they didn't catch them, I just didn't get a lot of reports this fall from St. George Island State Park over there. And of course the big red fish again are right there in the area of St. George Island of the Bob Sykes Cut. Always good red fish in there. I got a report here, Mexico Beach. Captain Mitch Coleman always sends in a good report. He said the water temperature has dropped to 68 degrees, so the water temperature has dropped all along the coast here. It's also it's 69 and 100 feet of water around, and a lot of their artificial reefs around that 100 feet of water, so they get a lot of fish in there, so it's dropped there down to 69. The flounder and a few sheephead are being caught on the Carp Body Reef, flounder and sheephead. Okay, it's also, they're using cut bait and squid. Real simple fishing right there, just drop it down with squid. You just can't go wrong with squid. A few whiting are showing up along the beaches and the jetties also, and also some sheephead around the pilings at the Mexico Beach Pier. Some sheephead there. No red tides around the reef area, but some in St. Joe Bay. So that's interesting. The red tide, again, has been spotty, and there's still some in St. Joe Bay. Okay, now let's move on up here to Panama City. We're just moving in from east to west. A lot to talk about here in Panama City. The black drum, that's been a go-to fish. Remember the picture I showed 2 days ago maybe, on the black drum being caught there at Lynn Haven Bridge. You want to use those little fiddler crabs. We've talked about catching them. They're excellent. And I'm getting more and more, and this is what's fascinating to me. In fact, I saw some fried up. I'm getting more and more reports on people eating these black drum. And now the old timers wouldn't, they say they ain't fitting to eat, is what the old timers would say. But I've seen people fry them up, putting them on Facebook, and oh, these are good. So I'm not going to knock it. If they're enjoying it, that's good. Bluefish, there's been caught some bluefish in the bay. The flounder, they have still caught a few flounder. Flounder's in the process of moving out now, but they're catching some around the pass. Deer Point Dam, the spillway, when that cold weather hits at the spillway around Deer Point Dam is good fishing. We'll have some good reports from Deer Point Dam. The redfish there and the black drum up in that area too. And sheephead being caught up there. So and that's something you just drive up there at Deer Point Dam Park. I mean, you can fish right there. And it's a lot of fun. Gets a little crowded when it's really cold weather, but really good fishing there. Over here on Choctawhatchee Bay, I've got the redfish and the black drum, the two fish, they're the go-to fish over there. Redfish and black drum, they're actually catching them pretty steady. They had a pretty steady week, the guys that went out. So that's the overall report. You know, the big thing about this time of year when you go fishing, if you can you get some live bait, to go trout fishing. Now, the trout fishing here in Bay County is interesting because 90% of my reports say, these are small trout. But one of my students, and he's going to be on the show Monday, we were talking about it in class the other day, and he said, Coach, I really caught some nice trout. And I said, he told me where he went, and he was catching them on live shrimp. So don't ever forget about using live bait, especially in wintertime, for these big trout. But that's really the old timers every winter. That's what they want to do they want to catch trout. They want to catch trout. And it's been one of the fascinating things to watch trout fishing in wintertime. I love to trout fish in wintertime. I love to do it off the dock and all. And if you get on them, you're just going to catch them one right after another if you get in them where they're staging up and all. So if you get a chance, take a look at trout fishing for some winter fishing and all in between all the hunting. Got to start wrapping things up for the week. I've really enjoyed doing this show this week. Next week, got a lot of stuff lined up for you. And make sure you send these reports in, send your pictures in, and we'll put them on air. You have a great weekend. And you do something outdoors now. Weather's going to be beautiful. And do something good for your fellow man, and God bless.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.